She didn't raise her voice. She didn't fight back. She just sat there, quiet, tired, and invisible to everyone except the man who decided she didn't belong. One slap echoed through the diner, louder than the clatter of plates, louder than the silence that followed. It wasn't just the sound, it was what came after. The stillness, the hesitation, the choice everyone in that room made. To do nothing. People looked. Of course they looked. Some widened their eyes. Some froze mid-bite. A few even shifted in their seats like they might stand up. But they didn't. Because stepping in meant risk. And silence was safe. To them, it was just another moment. Another woman. Another incident that would fade as quickly as it came. But what they didn't know was that this moment wasn't going to disappear. Because the woman they ignored wasn't alone. And when the truth finally walked through that door, the silence in that room would mean something very different. Her name was Martha Johnson, a name most people never bothered to learn. To them, she was just an elderly woman who came in every morning, sat in the same booth, ordered the same coffee, and left without making noise. Predictable, harmless, easy to overlook. But Martha had lived a life most people in that diner couldn't even imagine. She had seen decades of change, some good, some painful, most incomplete. She had learned slowly and painfully that respect wasn't always given. Sometimes it had to be carried quietly, even when no one acknowledged it. Every morning she walked the same path, careful steps, straight posture, eyes forward, not because she wasn't aware of the world around her, but because she had learned not to expect too much from it. The diner was her small escape, a place where for a few minutes life felt simple, a warm cup of coffee, the low hum of conversations, the sound of plates clinking in the background. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Or at least it used to be. That afternoon started like any other. Same coffee. Same silence. Something was different. Subtle at first. A shift in the air. A tension you couldn't quite see, but you could feel it if you paid attention. A voice in the corner. Louder than necessary. Words that didn't quite land right. Martha noticed. She always noticed. But she kept her head down. Because sometimes not reacting felt safer than being seen. The voice grew louder. At first it sounded like frustration, then irritation, then something sharper. A chair scraped loudly against the floor. The kind of sound that makes everyone look, but no one speaks. Martha's hands tightened slightly around her cup. She didn't turn, didn't react, just waited, hoping it would pass. It didn't. Footsteps approached, slow, heavy, certain. They stopped right beside her. "You shouldn't be here." The words cut through the room like a blade. Conversation stopped instantly. The background noise faded. Every sound in that diner seemed to disappear, except that voice. Martha looked up, not with anger, not even with fear, just with a quiet, tired understanding. She had been here before. Different place, different face, same feeling. She opened her mouth, maybe to speak, maybe to diffuse the moment. But she never got the chance. The slap came fast, sharp, loud, final. Her glasses shifted. Her body leaned sideways. The impact wasn't just physical. It was heavy with everything that came before it. And after it, silence. No one moved. No one spoke. It was as if the entire room had agreed, without saying a word, that this moment wasn't theirs to interrupt. Martha steadied herself, slowly, carefully. Her fingers gripped the edge of the table as she adjusted back into her seat. She didn't cry, didn't shout, didn't even look around for help, because deep down, she already knew none was coming. "Look at me when I'm talking to you." The man stepped closer, his voice rising, feeding off the silence around him. Power unchecked, confidence unchallenged. A waitress took a step forward, then stopped. A man near the door lowered his gaze. Someone whispered, "Don't get involved." And just like that, the moment stretched, heavier than before. Martha looked up again, briefly. There was something in her eyes. Not defiance, not fear. Something quieter, stronger, and somehow that made him angrier. He reached for her arm. Not gently, not to help, but to control. The chair scraped loudly as her body shifted. The coffee tipped over, spilling across the table, dripping slowly to the floor. Each drop echoed in the silence. Still, no one moved. But something had changed. Outside, just beyond the glass windows, a car pulled up, dark, quiet, unnoticed by almost everyone inside. The engine idled softly, waiting. Inside, the man tightened his grip, his voice louder now, more aggressive, like he believed he owned the moment. "Stand up." He yanked her slightly. Her body struggled to keep balance. Pain flickered across her face, but she didn't resist. Not because she was weak, but because she understood the cost of resisting. He wanted a reaction. He needed it. His hand lifted again. Time slowed. Phones began to rise. Eyes locked in. Not to help, but to watch. And then, "Let her go." The voice didn't shout. It didn't need to. It cut through the room with a calm that felt heavier than anger. The man froze. Slowly, he turned. The entire diner followed his gaze. At the door stood a man, still, composed, watching. There was nothing dramatic about him. No rush, no panic. Just a presence that shifted the entire room without a single move. Something changed. The grip on Martha's arm loosened, just slightly. Or what? The man snapped, trying to hold on to his confidence. But it wasn't the same anymore. The man at the door stepped forward, slow, measured, certain. "Or you'll wish you hadn't." A murmur spread across the room. The balance had shifted. The man holding Martha hesitated. Just for a second. But sometimes a second is enough. Martha looked up. And when her eyes met the man at the door, something changed. Recognition, not fear, not surprise. Something deeper. The kind of recognition that doesn't need words. And suddenly, the man gripping her realized something he hadn't before. This wasn't just another moment. This wasn't just another woman. And whatever was about to happen next was no longer in his control. The tension didn't explode. It collapsed. His hand dropped away from her arm as if it no longer belonged there. The confidence that once filled him faded, replaced by something unfamiliar, uncertainty. The room shifted. People who had stayed silent now watched closely, not out of courage, but because now it felt safe to look. The man at the door moved closer. No shouting, no threats, just control. And that control said everything. The aggressor stepped back, once, then again, his earlier dominance shrinking with every step, until finally he turned away, not defeated by force, but by something far more powerful, consequence. Martha slowly sat back down. Her hands trembled slightly, but her composure remained, because she had held on to something no one else in that room had, dignity. The diner stayed quiet, but now the silence felt different, heavier, uncomfortable. No one clapped. No one apologized, because deep down, they all knew the truth. She had needed help long before anyone thought about stepping in, and they hadn't. What happened that day didn't end when the man walked away. It stayed in that room, in those people, in the memory of a moment where silence chose a side. Because this wasn't just one story. It was something bigger, something repeated again and again and again. Martha finished her coffee that day, slowly, quietly, the same way she always did. But nothing about it tasted the same. And maybe that's the part we don't talk about enough. Not just the moment of injustice, but the silence that allows it. So the real question isn't what happened in that diner. The real question is, if you were sitting there, would you have done anything different? Or would you have stayed silent